All right, I'm 365 days of horsemanship. We're going to do a bit of a catch-up. Day 328, 329, and 330. My God, that means there's only 35 days left. That's the wildest. The wildest. It's really weird, actually, to be honest, because I kind of feel like I talked a little while ago about quality over quantity in terms of sessions, and even though I'd had the thought and the idea, I wasn't really sure about if it was like legit or if, it was just an excuse for me to not come up as much, or if I was sliding back into old bad habits as I'm finishing this project, and all these kind of like negative like worries and thoughts came through. And I think these last 3 days are a catch up probably from the last 5. I think there's been 2 days I haven't been up, but it's fascinating because even though I've not been coming up as much, when I have made it up, I've had really interesting sessions. I definitely noticed I've still been doing a lot of my dancing into a better feeling. I've been using music to motivate myself through the supportive leadership and iron out and soften out some of the intensity and the mental pressure that I was putting on both Lawrence and Mia in terms of like, trying to support them into some kind of focus change rather than making a decision for my own body and changing it when it felt right for me rather than kind of like doing it to some sort of end with the horses. And so that was kind of going quite well. I would say today is probably the first day that I really felt like things were consistently getting better. The day before yesterday, I came up with my fiance Damien, and that was a really interesting experience because with him, I immediately just found myself like explaining it myself as I was going along what I was doing with him, and explaining why I was doing what I was doing, and my feel and my timing really sharpened up explaining it to him, and like having that extra perspective of like being in a teaching space was really interesting. And that's something that was kind of reassuring to me, I think, because I do feel that, I've probably picked in a lot of ways an advanced level way to learn and train because I don't have anybody else at the yard who's there with me consistently. Like Larissa obviously trains her own horses, but her and I are definitely not on the same schedule. Like she's got kids and her own businesses to run, and I've got my shifts and all of that stuff. So it's quite unusual that we would be up training horses at the same time. And we're not really doing the same kinds of things anyway. And then there's nobody else really who's there who is consistent really enough with when they're there that we could make any kind of plans together. Oh, excuse me. I've always actually enjoyed that since I've been at Larissa's. I learned to ride at a riding stables, and there was a community there, but there was always obviously the politics that went along with that. And it was a really nice yard, actually. Like looking back on it, I think it was a really open and accepting place, and there was always someone who would want to do something with you. But then, yeah, I think then I ended up kind of going through a journey of feeling like I wanted to be in a place where no one was going to be passing such negative judgments on me as I had experienced other people experiencing at other yards, and like stories that I heard, from people who were, for example, at the stables that I grew up at, and the kinds of experiences that they had in other places, and kind of really saying to myself, wow, that's really not what I want out of my life with horses. And so I always kind of felt like I was thriving emotionally on the solace and the sort of solitude of being at Larissa's where I am now. But I also have started to notice recently how not having someone else to bounce things off or someone else to talk to as I'm doing things, or someone else to see things as I'm doing them, definitely makes it harder, because you lose, or for me it makes it harder because I've lost that outside perspective. So that was kind of an interesting session. And then today I just, really felt for the first time like I'm getting some consistency with enjoyment working at the touching distance, either in supportive leadership or in passive leadership. It's taking, and what I mean by that is it's taking shorter and shorter amounts of time between focus changes. So either I'm being supportive and there'll be a category change sooner, or I'm being passive and there will be a clear small focus change or a category change quicker. And that's really exciting. I think it's kind of empowering me to work more with this feeling that I have that I think I was thinking about this earlier. There's a big difference between someone who is good at understanding how to, but not necessarily good at knowing how to do, versus someone who's a great doer, but doesn't maybe understand how to do something differently. And I think that for me, I'm a great understander of the theory behind how to do something. I can understand that if I practice the same pattern consistently for 30 days, then I will have a result. I can understand that if I go to the gym and I run every day, then in a month I'll be able to run further and faster than I could run 30 days before. But actually making myself go to the gym and do the running, somehow there's a disconnect between knowing logically that it's going to work and feeling and believing that it will work while I'm doing the action. And I think that this is partially due to, I don't know, innate stuff, mental blocks, neural superhighways that are programmed in different ways. And I also think it's partly to do with the lack of experience. And I think the pathway to changing those neural superhighways is going to be through experience and practice, and actually having experiences where I do something for 30 days, I look back and I go, right, okay, wow, here's the progress I've made. I can see that I've made this progress. So that's kind of, it's been nice to have some consistency with working on this dancing into a category change idea, and noticing some positive impact from it. And that's kind of inspired me to continue to work with it in a consistent way. The other thing that came up today that was really nice with Mia was I started to vary the types of music I was using. I've been using a lot of high tempo, upbeat, kind of some electronic dance music, some rock music, stuff that's really gets me dancing around, because that's the stuff that was really motivating me. But I had this feeling that maybe I was shutting her down a little bit last time I worked with that. And so today I just played some classical music, some music from some different ballets, and did some kind of different styles of dance. And I found that the slower tempo was much easier for her to get curious about. And there were a few moments where we really had a connection during the music, and I was able to draw backwards, and her eye came to me, and that felt like a really nice, that was a baby step of being able to have that connection together in relation to the music and the movement, which is kind of the long-term goal of this little experiment. So that was really good. I was really pleased with that. I'm really pleased overall, I think. I definitely still feel like I am a little bit in the trenches. I feel like I'm nervous to say that I feel like things are getting better, because I've had this one good day. It doesn't really seem to have any, doesn't seem to give any promise for what the next day is going to be like. But I'm learning all the time, and I do think that I've learned some really powerful lessons from this particular period of low energy and general difficulty in being stable emotionally and consistent emotionally. And and I think I feel what I feel tonight is optimistic about tomorrow. And when I'm working with this idea of connecting to the present more, I think that's kind of all I can ask myself for at this point. And tomorrow I get to review and try again and see what I wake up with tomorrow morning, and kind of try and work out how I'm gonna work with my day tomorrow in the day that feels the best for me. So yeah, sorry it's been a few days, guys. As ever, I'm always trying to be really consistent with this. And I'm giving it the best I have. I'm really happy I was able to finally sit down to this. And I hope that I will be able to speak to you again tomorrow.